Hi guys, it's SkintBoot here, and today what I'm going to be bringing you guys is a new episode of This Week in No Man's Sky, or I should probably call it This Month in No Man's Sky, because I always fucking forget to make these videos. But regardless, in case you guys don't know what this series is all about, it's essentially a series where I take the weeks in, asterisks, No Man's Sky events and talk about them in a informal and more relaxed way. This is basically my way of kind of making videos without all the editing and all the auditory cuts and, all of that bollocks. This is just kind of like raw audio and intended for something to maybe listen to when you're playing a game or you're just chilling or what have you. Hopefully you guys have seen the other episodes. If not, they will be of ease of access if you just access my channel. But regardless of all of that utter filler and fluff, today I don't have a great deal to talk about. In fact, I only have 2 points which I'm going to be banging on about today. But I feel like there is a lot of stuff which I can talk about. And of course, this is going to get very opinion heavy and potentially a little bit controversial as well in some points. Now, I do want to point out, I'm sorry if you can hear a weird noise in the background, kind of like a humming. Some cunt outside is deciding to mow their fucking front lawn, so I can't tell him to shut up, so hopefully you can't hear him. But if you do, I'm sorry about that, I can't really do much about it. But anyway, with all of that said and done, let's fucking get right into this video. So, first and foremost, the big boy which we're going to be talking about, this is going to be the bulk of the video, is No Man's Sky VR. Now, I've been making a lot of videos on No Man's Sky VR, and to be honest, I think that's justified. It is not often we get a lot of news relating to basically a new version of No Man's Sky. Normally the only thing we have to talk about are updates or something like that, but we actually have a basic new game. The game is going to work differently, there's new aspects to it, it's very exciting stuff for content creators, but also the community in general. I'm liking No Man's Sky VR in terms of content. There's a lot I can cover, there's a lot I can talk about, and my opinions with No Man's Sky VR, which I have said in previous videos, are of course fairly mixed. I started off first covering No Man's Sky VR with basically a video saying that it is not the right time, that I don't believe No Man's Sky VR should have come out at the time it is doing so. Now, if you haven't seen that video, then to sum it up, I pretty much said that there are more pressing issues, more pressing updates and fixes and changes that No Man's Sky needs before it has a VR port. Now, a lot of people watched this video and I had a, fair amount of comments saying, okay, I agree with your points, but at the same time I disagree. I had a very healthy amount of comments on both sides of the spectrum, actually. And then, of course, I just had some absolute fucking mongoloids that said, I bet this kid doesn't have VR, this kid doesn't know what he's talking about. Some kid called me gay as well, which is the worst thing you can do. So it was a real mixed bag of emotions, and judging from the like to dislike ratio, I think the majority of people don't agree with my point. But nevertheless, I have of course made some videos about No Man's Sky VR, and I have said in all of these videos that I think it is a really good thing. If you look at it from just a technical standpoint, from just a consumer standpoint, it is absolutely amazing to get a VR port of near enough a AAA game in terms of reputation, to have a entirely free VR port as an update. That is absolutely amazing. Not to mention the fact that No Man's Sky as a game is something which you can sink a lot of hours into, and generally people in the community are sinking, hundreds, sometimes thousands of hours into No Man's Sky, and for the game to be in VR is honestly just a dream come true. And I'm not trying to say that is not the case, alright, trust me. I own a VR headset, in case you are just about to type out a paragraph about how I don't know, I'm a flat screen peasant or whatever the fuck, and I really like VR. The first time booting up VR, playing a bit of Robo Recall is absolutely phenomenal. Like, I cannot think of an experience that tops playing VR for the first time. It is, truly a one-of-a-kind experience, but that doesn't mean I am so blinded by VR. VR has its drawbacks. It has its limitations, especially in the catalogue of games and the technology itself. Now, No Man's Sky VR is probably one of the only big mainstream flat screen games that have made it to virtual reality, with the, Bethesda lazy as $60 ports aside, like Skyrim, Fallout 4, and kind of Doom VR as well. So in terms of just what games you want to be playing on a VR headset, then No Man's Sky is going to be a big reason to buy a VR headset, and that is what a lot of people have said. But the thing is, I'm looking at this from the perspective of someone who has a VR headset. All of the people that were saying, you're so fucking wrong, I'm so excited for it, probably all own an Oculus or a Vive or a PC or a fucking PSVR headset. Alright, so think that you are looking at this through the knowledge that you can play it, that you can experience No Man's Sky VR, and you're not necessarily looking at it from other people's perspective. People, like, for example, that don't have VR, they don't have the money for it, they don't have the setup for it, or what have you. VR just doesn't seem that pressing to them. If they just want to play No Man's Sky on a flat screen monitor, then they don't give a shit about VR. And especially since VR does make up one part of the 3 parts that will be in Beyond, some people can see that as a little disappointing. Now, I'm not saying by any means that, you are completely and utterly wrong and selfish if you want No Man's Sky VR, because I want it as well. I just think in the, grand scheme of things, and in terms of what can be added in place of virtual reality, where the development time could have been focused somewhere else, I think maybe we could have got something that appeals to the masses, I guess you could say. Without sounding extremely entitled and like the world revolves around me, virtual reality for No Man's Sky does excite me, there is no question about that, but I personally would have preferred some more actual, additions to the regular base version of the game, instead of them making VR part 2 of, or part 1 of whatever, making it a part of Beyond. I would have liked, I don't know, maybe like a space update, or a big variety update, or, something like that. That isn't to say that that won't happen. That's not to say that No Man's Sky VR has ruined the possibility of there being more than what there is. I'm just saying, priorities for me and some people think that it should have come as maybe an afterthought, something a little further down the line. So if you agree with me, then, you agree with me. If you disagree with me, you disagree with me. That's it. Everyone has their own opinion. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, and whatever way you look at it, you are always going to think a certain way. So that is that. So yes, No Man's Sky VR is a very touchy subject, I guess you could say. In the community, people are getting extremely defensive about it. People saying it's not a good thing, or people saying they don't like it. Immediately you've got all these people just fucking going at war with each other. And we don't want that. Alright, at the end of the day, No Man's Sky VR is a free addition to a game which we all like. Even if you don't think it's necessarily important, like myself, I can still respect the fact that we're getting it for free, and we're still getting content updates when we don't have to, We can't sound spoiled and like Hello Games has to do this and they have to listen to us. So, in reality, No Man's Sky VR isn't all that bad, okay? My opinion has not changed. I still would have preferred something instead of it, but now that we have it, there's nothing that can be done. The past cannot be changed, the decision cannot be undone, so just embrace it, just look forward to it. And if you don't have a virtual reality headset, then, I don't know, just hold out for part 3 and No Man's Sky multiplayer and the absolute shit ton of changes that will come with Beyond anyway. So, yeah. That is that. I think I've covered this topic absolutely to death, and there's no more I can say on it until I make another fucking video about it. But yeah, that is that. I know it's a very touchy thing, but that is ultimately what I think. So, the second part of this video is something relating to speculation, and also something relating to Beyond in some potential way. So, essentially, Beyond speculation at the moment is quite active, I guess you could say. There are a lot of people picking things apart, a lot of people thinking stuff that probably won't come true, and that is expected. Ultimately, at the end of the day, us as a community are allowed to get excited and, you know, maybe a little bit too carried away with what can be added to an update, because that is what we do. That's what we've always done, and there is a lot of fun in that, a lot of enjoyment, so that isn't a bad thing. But one of the things that comes with this, you know, extreme speculation and extreme hoping for something a lot bigger and a lot more interesting is cities. Now, cities is a weird one because I have made, I think, only one video about them, but it was a good few months back. This was before Beyond. I think this was around the time of Visions, maybe like the month after or so. I can't really remember. But my point is, cities are something that has been spoken about basically since the dawn of No Man's Sky. A lot of people have always requested them. A lot of people think that they'd be a very good addition to the game, and I completely agree. You know, watching Star Citizen gameplay and seeing all of these like crazy as procedurally generated cities is something which I don't think a lot of people will ever experience in their lives, and that's why I want No Man's Sky to have a basic city requirement. Maybe not even like a city, just a village or a tiny little settlement. So cities and the speculation surrounding them, the fact that people are believing Beyond Part 3 is going to be big civilizations and shit like that, has come back. This is a very current thing at the moment, and once again, like No Man's Sky VR, people seem to be quite divided on what they think. A lot of people say it's absolutely fucking incredible and they're really excited for it if it were to happen, but other people are saying, you know, it doesn't fit in, it's not right, it's not No Man's Sky, and so forth. So I thought I'd give my opinions on this matter. So from a gameplay perspective, cities would be very good in No Man's Sky. If Hello Games are avid with keeping their current very timid flora and terrain generation, where planets just all kind of feel the same in terms of terrain, you can kind of guess what they're going to look like based on the climate, then cities would kind of fill that void. Where you would just see a fairly sparse landscape, you would see some buildings. You know, that would fit in quite nicely. Not just that though, in terms of the possibilities it could open up for gameplay, in terms of combat, missions and trading, you know, it'd be absolutely amazing. I do think that cities have a home in No Man's Sky. I just don't really know how they would fit in. I don't know how they would be done. They just seem very complex and very kind of situational. You have to get them dead on, otherwise they're just going to feel a bit out of place and probably a little bit shitty. But I can compare it to something like a crash freighter. You know, a crash freighter, I don't see all that much, but when you do find them, they look really cool. You know, same with ruins or ancient relics or something like that. You know, stuff which isn't just wildlife really does need to be improved in No Man's Sky. Especially with all of the old pre-release footage we saw where we, you know, saw like flags and little like castles that were covered in sand. That is what we need. And maybe cities is near enough what we do need. Maybe that can replace all of these lost, cut, pre-release buildings which we saw back in the day. However, there is one thing which I do want to say, which a lot of people will always bring up, and that is the fact that, do cities fit into No Man's Sky? Do they fit into the lore? Because a lot of people say that cities don't exist in No Man's Sky because of the Sentinels and previous wars that have gone on. So Hello Games just adding cities out of the blue, would that fit into the story? Would that be happy for all of the lore masters out there that are studying the backstory of No Man's Sky? I don't know. I don't study the lore enough. I'm not Orbit TV. I don't know the whole fucking story of No Man's Sky. But for those that are big on the story and big on the immersion and kind of like role playing and things like that, it might shake things up a little bit. I guess it's kind of like how Bethesda fucked around with the Fallout lore when they made 76, where they put either the Brotherhood or the Enclave, I don't remember, one of them in the game when they basically just weren't supposed to be there. They rewrote history for the sake of gameplay and it looking cool and fan service and all of that shit. People were kind of unhappy with that, especially those that are really big on the Fallout lore. I think I'm quite big on it as well. Nowhere near as big as, you know, some of the other people out there that fucking study it to death, but when you do mess around with the story and try and make all these bullshit excuses why it exists, it does annoy some people, as I said, especially those that are really big on the story and the lore and all of that stuff. And another big problem with Cities is how it will work in terms of, you know, technical gameplay, frame rate, stuttering, all of that stuff. Now, we do know that No Man's Sky Beyond will improve the optimization of the game because there is going to be a VR port. So with better optimization comes the possibility of having more extreme parts to planets, having stuff like Cities, which before this optimization update, which is coming, would have just completely fucked the game, you know, absolute anal gape on the game, because it wouldn't have been able to handle it. I think that now, or especially when Beyond releases, there is definitely a chance that Cities could work if the optimization is really that good. And then that in turn kind of allows for some more, you know, like, crazy shit, like, I don't know, volcanoes or flowing lava rivers or something like that. I think that Cities are a tough one when it comes down to how they fit in, if it's important to have them, are they really needed? Because really there are so many different paths and branching arguments, it's hard to get a good grasp of what you truly believe. Now, I do think, as I've said a million times already, that Cities would fit because I'm not all that big on the lore and the story. It wouldn't faze me if Hello Games were to fuck around with the story for the sake of having something cool in the game. But then, at the same time, do I want Cities over variation, over natural disasters, over, you know, anything that is more pressing and more crucial to gameplay? No, probably not. It's kind of the same as virtual reality. Cities, in my eyes, are not needed. There are so many more things that are needed. You know, better animal AI, better animal sounds, you know. There's so much more that would be more impactful on the game in terms of immersion and exploration, rather than a city. Again, don't get me wrong, they're cool, but priorities, you know, you got to get the priorities in. So guys, I think I have probably beaten everything to death in this video multiple times. I've spoken so much about VR already and Cities and other videos that I don't really have anything new to say, and I don't really want to drag this out longer than it should be. So I know this is probably the shortest episode I've done yet, but hopefully that will be of use to you, maybe, if you don't like, you know, fucking swagging your way through 30 minutes of me talking about absolute bollocks. But I will say quickly, because, you know, it's not a this week video if I don't talk about something unrelated to No Man's Sky, but full-time YouTube is going very well. I'm very much enjoying it so far. I have got a crazy backlog of made videos that are ready for upload, half-done videos, video ideas. I am doing bits, I guess you could say. So, yeah, YouTube is looking promising. I'm very excited to start bringing you a load more content. I'm slightly tempted to start streaming again if I can fix OBS, because OBS is such a piece of wank. It just never works for me. If it's not the bitrate that's fucking up, it's the sound, or it's, you know, blue screening my PC, which has happened multiple different times. But yeah, I'm doing stuff. I'm putting a lot of effort into YouTube at the moment. So I just want to thank you all for even allowing me to do this in the first place, you know. 13k subs doesn't seem like a lot, and to full-time YouTube it probably isn't a lot. But to me, knowing that 13,000 people like my videos is way more motivational than flipping burgers at work, you know. And that is why I want to give you my attention instead of giving some big fucking corporate business and attention that it doesn't need. Alright, so Marxism aside, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did enjoy it, then please do feel free to leave a like on it, and if you guys could also subscribe to MZK, then that'd be absolutely fantastic. And as always, I will see you guys on my next video. This is SkintBoot, signing out.